Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make Irish soda bread, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, the outside crust is golden brown and it's nice and crisp, and yet inside the bread is soft and tender. So the first thing that you will need to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 200 degrees Celsius, and then you will need a baking sheet. I've lined mine with parchment paper, but you could lightly butter it or lightly oil it or even spray it with one of those non-stick sprays. So soda bread is a quick bread. So that means it doesn't get its rise from yeast, it gets it from baking soda. So there's no long kneading or proofing. It's really quick and easy to make. And we're going to actually make this by hand, so you will need a large bowl. So, soda bread, in its most basic form, is 4 ingredients: flour, baking soda, salt, and buttermilk. That's it. Now there's lots of variations, but that's it in its basic form. And you can use all-purpose white flour, or you could use whole wheat flour, and that makes it a brown soda bread. Today, I'm going to actually mix the two. So I have in here 1.5 cups, which is 195 grams of all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And I'm also using 1.5 cups, 195 grams of whole wheat flour. Now, if you don't want to mix it, you can substitute the whole wheat flour for all-purpose flour or vice versa. And then, of course, baking soda. 1 teaspoon, 4 grams of baking soda. 3/4 of a teaspoon, 3 grams of salt. I like to use kosher salt because I like the flavor a little better, but you can use like a regular table salt. Now, here I'm going to add a little, my variation of the soda bread. I like to add a little sugar. You don't have to, but I do. I'm adding 2 tablespoons, 30 grams of granulated white sugar. And then I'm also adding, again, you don't have to, 2 tablespoons, 15 grams of rolled oats. I'm using the old-fashioned rolled oats. The difference between the old-fashioned and the quick cooking is really just in the thickness of the texture of the oats. So you could use the quick cooking here. And I'm just adding that for a little texture, a little flavor, but you know, again, you can leave it out. And then I'm just using a whisk. You could just use your hands to mix this all together. And then just kind of make a well in the center. And we need our buttermilk. 1.5 cups, 360 milliliters of buttermilk. Now, you can buy buttermilk, or you could make like sour milk, and that would be fine to use here as well. So to make sour milk, you need 1.5 cups, 360 milliliters of just milk. Add 1.5 tablespoons. You can either add lemon juice or a vinegar, either a regular like distilled vinegar or even a cider vinegar. Stir it together. Just let it sit on the counter, you know, maybe about 10 minutes, and it's ready to use. Now, whenever you're making like a soda bread or a scone, you know, the amount of liquid can vary depending on how much your flour will absorb. So when I say 1.5 cups, don't pour it all in. Pour most of it, but what we want is a nice soft dough that's a little sticky. We don't want it really like wet. So that's why I don't add it all at once. Maybe leave back, you know, maybe 1/4 cup, 60 milliliters. And I'm just eyeballing it here, but we'll see what happens. And then you can use a wooden spoon. You could use a spatula. I'm just using one of these plastic scrapers to kind of work it in. Whenever you're making something like this, or a scone, or scone, you may say, you want a light hand. You don't want to really mix a lot, because then you get the gluten development, and then it'll be a little tough, which, you know, with the texture, which we would prefer not to have that. So a light hand, as they say. I think I'm going to have to add a little more. Scrape that off. But you know what? I'm going to get my hands in there. The best way is to feel the dough. And then you can work that. You want to make sure. I still got a little flour on the bottom, so I am going to add a little more and work that in. I'm almost there. So, yeah, I'm happy. Wow, just a little more. So I have quite a bit left, 2 or 3 tablespoons left that I'm not going to use. So as you can see, it's a nice ball. It's a little sticky, but not ridiculous. Because then if you got it too wet, then you have to add a little more flour. And then again, your bread can be a little tough. So now, out of the way. So lightly flour your surface. And then we're just going to, a little flour on top. Just knead it a few times to make sure everything's moistened and bring it all together. Like so. Looks good. Okay. These scrapers are nice because they can clean your counter. Okay. So now we're just going to flatten that. Put a little flour in my hands here. Into a round. I'm doing about a 7-inch round, which is 18 centimeters. Try to get it the same thickness. And then you can always get out your trusty ruler. So, right? Now, my hands are a mess here, so I'll show you a little, put that under there. Show you a little trick. Just take a little flour over my bowl and just rub your hands in the flour. I find that easier than running them under the tap, at least to get the stickiness off. Okay, so now we have our bread, and what I like to do to help with browning is to just brush the top. I'm using a little light cream. You could use just milk. You could actually use the buttermilk. Whatever you like. Or you don't have to. Sometimes I forget, or I'm in a rush. So just a light coating. And then this is just for looks. I like to put a little flour. If you ever go and buy artesian bread, you kind of notice how they have the flour on the top. I think it adds a little something. Makes it look more attractive. You could put the rolled oats on top too. And then you can use a knife, but I have some kitchen shears, and I'm going to do a cross or an X on the top. And I want to go about a 1/4 inch deep, about 1/2 centimeter. So, and almost right across the top of the bread. So kitchen shears, and make sure they're just for the kitchen. Nice and clean. Some say you do that to let the fairies out. Really, what it is so that we control the cracking of the bread as it bakes. And that's it. A nice, easy bread to make. So, everyone's oven is a little different. I'm going to say about 30 minutes. It will rise, turn a beautiful golden brown, and if you tap it on the bottom, it will sound hollow. So that's a way to tell. I do like to rotate my baking sheet front to back about halfway through baking. So I'm going to say 30 minutes. It may take a little more, a little less in your oven. Okay. So our soda bread is now done. Put your baking sheet on a wire rack. As you can see, beautiful golden brown. If you want to, you can just kind of smudge that flour if you put that on top. And then if I just turn it over, sounds hollow. I don't know whether you can hear that, but it does sound hollow. So there. Now I'm just going to let this cool. I want to eat it while it's still warm, but it's too hot right now. So I'll let it cool about 5-10 minutes. And when we come back, we'll try a slice. So our bread is still warm, but it's cooled down enough. Now keep in mind, I used the combination of the white and the whole wheat flour, so this is why the color of my bread is more brown. If you used all-purpose flour, then it would be a different color. So just keep that in mind and experiment, you know, with both types. Now you can just break this apart. Actually, you know, if you were having your bread with a soup or a stew, you might just for 4 people, and then you can just break it apart with your hands. I'll use a knife. So, oh, it smells so good. There we go. Isn't that gorgeous? As you can see, a soda bread, the texture is a lot more dense than, say, a yeast bread. But it is really good. It's moist, it's tender. Buttermilk gives you a real tender texture to your bread, which is, I'm just going to break off. Now, we didn't put any butter in our soda bread, so I think then soda bread with some butter is what it needs. And if you're having this for breakfast, which I often do, then I use some jam. It's really good too with butter and a slice of cheese, but especially the butter. Okay. I won't put the jam, I'll just use the butter today. Sorry, got to chew it. You know, what's so great is the outside crust, when it comes out of the oven, is nice and crisp, and contrasts that to the soft and tender texture of the bread. It's really nice. You know, it has really good flavor. I actually like doing that combo of the all-purpose and the whole wheat. It gives a nice flavor, good texture. I like a little bit of sugar. I'll admit it. I like a little bit of sugar to sweeten it up. You know, and it's such a nice bread to make. If I was going to make some stew or soup for lunch and I don't have any bread in the house, really, you can make this start to finish and be sitting down eating it in less than an hour. So, hey, we all want that. That's a great bread to have. And so, you know, it's good the first day. Actually, you can slice it and have it as toast. Or sometimes, I mean, it's really good still the second day, or you can heat it up a little in the microwave if you want to soften it up. It's a really good bread. You must try it. And until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.